So I think the organizing idea here is that the White House doesn't want the federal government to be spending money to support programs to which President Trump is opposed. Um, and the problem with that is that that's not his call. Under the Constitution, the way the appropriations power works is it belongs to Congress, not the president. If the president could decide not to spend whatever money he doesn't want to spend, then there's not much point in having a Congress at that point. And so, even if folks were sympathetic in the abstract to the idea that maybe there are a few programs where it's not quite fair to make the president have to spend money he's opposed to spending, this is not a scalpel. This is a nuclear tipped broadsword. And to allow this kind of program to go forward would not just have immediate, harsh, deleterious effects on all kinds of segments of society. It would really pretty radically reorient the separation of powers in this country away from the legislature and toward the executive. I think one or both of two things is going to happen. Either we're going to see the administration just further walk back and walk back and walk back this policy until it's not much of anything, or it's going to lose in court. I mean, even as the courts have become more sympathetic to claims of executive power, including the Supreme Court as recently as last summer in the presidential immunity case, the appropriations power, Congress's power of the purse, has been the one real sort of untouchable part of Congress's constitutional prerogative. And I think, courts from across the ideological spectrum, courts across the country, the US Supreme Court, if and when we get there, are going to be pretty darn skeptical of an effort by a president to just so categorically try to get out from underneath Congress's biggest, most important, and most clearly Congress's constitutional power. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about literally tens of billions of dollars, money that goes to, everything from funding cancer research to funding school lunch programs to funding, student loans. Now, the Office of Management and Budget has since tried to clarify that some of that stuff is not covered by the memo, although the ambiguity is itself a problem. But the reality is that, federal financial assistance, federal money is in just about all of our lives in some way, shape, or form, supporting our local emergency room, supporting our local colleges and universities, providing access to healthcare. I mean, you name it, helping our local governments and our state governments to rebuild our roads. And so everywhere you look, there is some kind of federal financial assistance. And here we have the Trump administration not just turning off the tap, but doing so really for no reason other than to give it time to decide if it wants to turn the tap back on. Even when prior presidents have claimed narrower powers to impound appropriated funds, it's never been for these kinds of, loose, amorphous, unspecific policy reasons. So impoundment is a claim that the president is entitled to decline to spend money that Congress has appropriated. We should note, on Tuesday, the administration claimed that this is not an impoundment because it's temporary. That's really a non sequitur. I mean, impoundment historically has meant any context in which the executive branch is refusing to spend money Congress has appropriated. And indeed, there's a 1974 statute, the Impoundment Control Act, that specifically provides a mechanism through which the president can temporarily defer payments. That's not the process that the Trump administration is following here. So this seems pretty clearly to be an impoundment, and I think even more problematically, an impoundment that is not consistent with the 1974 Act.